Hey guys, I'm Luke with Luke's Coin Art, and today I'm going to do kind of an instructional video or a beginner's video, but it's for people that actually have the proper tools for the most part. You really just need to have a ring stretcher of some sort, whether it be whatever you got, ring stretcher. You need some kind of a press, whether it be an arbor, a 6-ton. I'm probably just going to be using this stretcher for just about everything that we're going to do here, because I can use the push rod down below. And as long as you have a center punch of some sort, doesn't matter what you use, and then your basic dies, should be able to do everything that we're going to accomplish in this video. So again, this is more for beginners, and let me emphasize that I am a beginner for the most part. I've made probably 500 rings and learned from every one I've made, but I've only been doing it for about maybe 5 months, something like that. But I do make some quality rings, so let's go ahead and just start. Today we're going to be doing a Scottsdale 1/2 ounce. This is pure silver. I wanted to work with pure silver because it's really easy to work with, easy to stretch, and just easy to deal with. So there'll be less table shaking and whatnot. So the first step is basically you got to get the size. I know I'm going with we're going for about a 9.5 on this final size. So I've kind of noticed over time that depending on which center punch you use is best for your final size. I tend to use the 3/8 inch punch for anything under like a size maybe 9 or under. I'll use the 1/2 inch for like a 9 to 11, and this for 11 or higher. And the reasoning behind that we'll go over later. But for this one, we're going to be using the 1/2 inch punch. So you want to find the right ring. We're going to have to eyeball this because the closest ring I have is for a silver dollar. Luckily, I have some rings kind of carved out in the inside here, so it's easy to eyeball. You do it however you guys have to do it. But for most coins, most standard coins pretty much fit in most rings. Some of you have secrets to getting dead center and whatnot. I am going to eyeball this one. And let's move over to here. This is the 6-ton press. This will probably be the only thing we really use this for. A lot of you hammer it out. A lot of you have your own ways of getting that center out. I have a bad shoulder, so I just prefer to use the 6-ton press for this part. Make things easier on myself. So there we have a center punch. Now to get that out, what I do is I just hammer it. So there we go. I like to put everything away as I go just to keep myself organized. I like things put away a certain way so that when I go back it's right where I like it. Alright, so this is what we have right now. We have a center punched coin. Focus here. So now you'll probably notice this little rim here on the inside. It needs a little bit of work. It wasn't an actual clean cut. So what I like to use is a Dremel tool, but mine doesn't fit in there yet. So I have to switch the head on there. Let's see if a little steel wool might just soften that up just enough to where we need it. I don't like to have any blemishes because that's going to get stretched out. And if there's any flaws, cracks, issues at all, it'll show up. So that didn't do the trick, so let's go ahead and use a deburring tool. You can get these at Home Depot. They're like $6. And you're just going to take it to the edge and go around. And that's going to clean that edge up a lot. Then I can go ahead and take my 0000 steel wool, hit that inside. Make it nice and soft. Looks like we got a little imperfection right there I want to get rid of. I am going to switch this Dremel head off real quick just so I can do this properly. Apologize for that. I'm just going to use a smaller bit. I should have goggles on. What am I doing? And this is about a 120 grit sandpaper. Because this edge is going to be stretched quite a bit, just want to make sure there's no cracks or flaws or any kind of issues with it. Because that will show up in the long run, or it will just crack. Because we're dealing with pure silver, it tends to be pretty easy. So now the inside looks good. Just want to soften it up now with some steel wool. So now you can maybe or maybe not see that the inside is pretty clean. So the next step is to heat and anneal. I heat and anneal quite often. Let me adjust this camera real quick. I may heat too often, but I like to make sure I don't have any issues. With pure silver, this being a 1/2 ounce, about 20 seconds. I want to hit it on the hottest part of the flame, which is about where the blue point ends. And you can almost see like a green flame come off it. Right now there's an orange flame. When you start seeing a green flame, that's another good indication that you've heated it enough. Should be good. Just takes a second in the water. Normally I keep my torch going the whole process, but I don't want that sound in the background. Alright, so for the rest of this, using the stretcher here. I'm not going to be needing this bottom part. So your next step is, a lot of people don't really know what die to use for what. Basically, you just want the coin to sit as close to the top as possible, and that's which die you want to use. If it doesn't fit and overlaps, you don't obviously want to use it. Or if it fits too far down in the hole, you don't want to use it. So for this one, we almost fit in there, but since we're not quite, we're going to go with the other side. And normally you'd use like a one with a I can't remember what the heck they call it, with the little rim that holds a coin, but those are for the special sizes. So just make sure you're as level as possible. So what we got here, make sure you have the inside of the coin facing up, and then you're going to want to use basically whatever cone fits in the hole to where you can still be cleared, which for this one, it's the second size cone up. So there's 4 cone sizes, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going with the number 2 here. Give that a good press down. You get that starter cone shape that we're wanting. So the main objective here is to get it to where your coin is basically hugging the edge of your cone. So you can see we still got a ways to go here. I like to heat and anneal pretty much every time I do a fold. So I'm going to go back over here real quick. I don't need to have you see the process every time, but now our main goal is a size 9.5. So I'm going to want to stretch this once we get the cone going. I'm going to stretch it pretty heavy to about a 12.5. You always want to go a little heavier on size than your final size. And I'll show you why here in a few minutes. Alright. So again, whichever die, before we use this side, and we pressed it down pretty far. Right now it fits almost to the top of the other side. So I'm going to use this die now. Make sure we're level. My next size cone doesn't quite fit in that hole yet, so I'm going to continue with the second size. You just want to make sure you don't push through the cone. That's the one big thing. So I've pretty much gone as far down in this die as I can. So I'm going to go to the next size down, which is this guy. And you can see that the lip is just barely big enough to fit. So let's go back one step and go back to the die we just used. And at this point we should be able to go up a cone size. And when I start getting to this size, I like to put Teflon tape on all my cones, because now you're going to start having some metal on metal contact to the inside of the coin. It's not just the inner lip, it's going to be the actual inside of the coin. So I like to wrap these 3-4 times with Teflon tape. It's easier just to do on my lap real quick. Wish I had a cameraman to get all this, but and the Teflon tape will just kind of help with the metal on metal contact, kind of save the inside of the coin. So you want to wrap that up real good. You'll see now that that does fit into the coin. So we're just going to basically press this just a little bit to where it will fit into the next cone, because I'm almost pressing to where it's going to fall through the inside. So just that little push allows us to now go to the next cone size. And because we're super close to where we want to be, I have very little bit to go. We're almost sucked up to the edge like I was talking about. That's my main goal. I'm not going to heat and anneal this, but we are right where we want to be now. So now you can see we are sucked up to the cone. There's no space in between the coin, the cone. We have the right cone shape that we want. And right now our size is about a 9. Now our final size is going to obviously be a 9.5. So now we're going to take it to the stretcher. And we're going to stretch this out, regardless of what our end size is, to as close to where the smaller side is level with the larger side, the reeded side. So let me heat and nail this real quick. All right. So this is where you want to also protect the inside of your coin. If you just go ahead and stretch it on the stretcher, all this stretching and whatnot's going to definitely damage the inside detail of your coin. So I use shop towels. And if you just set a layer on there, press the coin over the top, push it down, you won't have any of that metal on metal contact. Now I don't like to go too far in. I don't want to go too more than like maybe 10 pushes, because then I want to start heating and annealing again, just to make this metal as soft as possible. So you can see it's starting to cone out a little more straight now. It's kind of hard to see with the background there. Just want this metal to be as soft as possible. If you overheat and anneal though, you'll definitely have some weird things happen to your metal. So you also don't want to do that. And when I say overheat and anneal, I'm talking about like sitting it under the flame for several minutes or whatnot. So now we're almost to where both sides are absolutely as close to being level as possible with using the stretcher. Now this is where some would just say, oh, the ring's done, I'm going to send it off. Obviously they'd be off a little bit in the size, but we've got the flare going away. Let's see if I can get a good background here. There we go. So the flare's going away. It's a huge size now. We're looking at like a 14, which is fine. That's exactly what we want to do. So at this point, there's a few different things we could do. We could either use Swedish dies, which I like to do. The Swedish dies are great. If you have the Swedish die, I can show you a really quick step to make this ring even that much cooler. And let's just do that because this is just an extra step. The next step is what we could do if you don't have a Swedish die. So if you have a Swedish die, you'll do one more heat and anneal. This will be the final one. At this point, we are just going to shrink this ring down and make both sides level to where we're looking at a 9.5. There won't be any more need for any heating and annealing. Most of the time, your issues are going to come when you're stretching. When you're shrinking everything back up, you're kind of adding more metal to everything and whatnot. So again, same with your dies. Whichever one it fits closest to the top end is the one you're going to want to go with. We don't quite fit in the smallest size Swedish die. We fit halfway into the medium size one. So I'm going to go with that. But first I'm going to go ahead and wrap it a few times in the Teflon tape. Again, the metal on metal contact you want to avoid. And this will add that little protective layer. Alright, so we're wrapped up about, I don't know, 8 or 9 times. Set her in there level. And then you're going to want to use one of your push rods. Most of you have the brass or something that came with it. I have a bunch of different sizes, so I'm just going to use, you want to use whichever one will cover that reed without being off, so it'll sit wonky or push wonky. So for this one I'm going to use this. Make sure you're centered so you don't end up being off a little bit, or it will slip in that die and make things real difficult for you. So again, double check that you're centered. As far as that push rod will go, so I'm going to switch it with the next size. And again, just make sure you're level and you're touching all the reeds. Now the benefit to using the Swedish die, and when you're using the Teflon tape, you can really see what's happening here. We're pushing everything in, and we're also elongating the coin. Because we are pushing this down, it's elongating it. It's hard to explain. But anyways, with the Teflon tape, you can see that there are no variances. There's no lower point, like say it's like U-shaped or something. A lot of people will get that U-shape, and that's what the Swedish die kind of helps. It helps form everything towards perfectly level. Now if you don't have the Swedish die, you don't have to really worry about that. At this point your ring should be stretched to where it's not an issue, and that's why you want to stretch it higher than normal. At this point we're looking at a size 12.5 ring. Now again, that shrunk it about, I think we're at a 14.5 or 15 before. Shrunk it a few sizes, but if you don't have the Swedish die, you just do this next step and you'll be fine. You're going to take your regular dies that we got down here. Kind of fix this tape a little bit, it's coming off. And you're going to want to find whichever die the ring will fit in, reeded side down. And I'm using 17-degree die. I don't want to use my 25 on this one, although I have one. Our objective now is to shrink the reeded side down to about a half size smaller than your final size. So we want a 9.5. I'm going to shrink the reeded side down to about a 9. Looks like I can go probably one push. Can we see everything here? Looks like I can go about a little push on this side, and then we'll turn it around. Now you don't want to go too far because it's hard to get it back to where you want to be. So take it slow. Check your sizing. Right now we're at about a 9.5, which is going to be our final goal. The reason I want to go a half size smaller is because I am going to do a little bit of tooling to the reeded side only. So at this point we've got almost a perfect sized ring. I'm going to push this down just a tiny bit more on the reeded side. And now you want to pay attention to how much space you have in between your push rod and your die, because that's exactly how far, once we're done with this, which is right about, I didn't push it far, right about there. It should be a size 9 right now on the reeded side, which it is. It's perfect. Now wherever this sits, and this is kind of the key to finishing your ring, however much space you have there, the white Teflon that you see, is how far you're going to want to push it down when you flip this coin over. So we've got the one side to a size 9, and because I'm going to tool the inside here, it's going to gain another half size, so it'll be a 9.5. So now you can see we have about 1/8 of an inch. We got to push this down to where it would be level with the other side, how it was. So there we go, maybe right about there. I pull this out, we should have the right size, the right shape. Everything about this ring should look right and should look done, which it does. So we've got the right shape. Everything about this is right now. Now, the reeded side gets less manipulated through the ringing process, so it's thicker than the non-reeded side. So what I'm going to do now is we're just going to take the let's actually move this over to here. We're going to take our deburring tool, and we're going to take just a few swipes off of here, maybe 3 or 4 rounds. You want to be sure that you're not hitting the inside of the coin with the end of this deburring tool, or else it'll scratch you up a little bit. We've been trying to avoid the metal on metal this whole time. And then I like to finish that with a little bit of sanding. And I use this really fine grit. I'm not even sure what kind of sandpaper this is, but I use this. And I'm just going to take off, just kind of more to make it look and feel right. Just going to take off a tiny bit all the way around. And again, this is going to take about that half size that we wanted. Make it just right. Suggest wearing gloves because it does get pretty hot. Make sure you use the same angles. So it looks nice and pretty. So that basically just hit this inside edge all the way around. Now let's take her to the sizer, see where we're at. Again, we want a 9.5. And right now, dead on at 9.5. So everything's good about this ring. It's a 9.5. Size is good, inside's good, outside's good. Just want to polish it up at this point. A lot of people have different techniques, different ways to go about how they do it. I just like to glove up the old right hand because that's what I touch the coin with. Polish it with 000 steel wool, and then I take it to the liver of sulfur, which you could buy off of Amazon Prime. I like to hit the reeded side, make that nice and shiny. Just make it all shiny. I use the glove just so that the fingerprints and whatnot, when I do the patina, the liver of sulfur, it doesn't affect that at all. So there we go. This is our ring right now. Let's go ahead and run downstairs. Give it a quick liver of sulfur and finish it up. I'll just grab everything I'm going to need right here and just finish this downstairs. Excuse the mess. We each got our what's the best way to set this up here? Probably so you guys can see me. All right. So liver sulfur. It's good old stuff here. Stinks like farts. Find it. This is a 4 ounce. It'll last me forever. Just want to use a tiny bit. Really just a pinch. There's some big chunks in there. I just find a few powder pieces. Maybe just a tiny bit. Not even a 1/4 teaspoon. Put that in the old Tupperware. And then just some hot water. We have there's some steaming hot water here. It's set up in our system, so that's good. You want to get it to about a pea yellow. Let it dissolve in there. There we go. We got that yellow that you want. We got our nice and shiny, pretty coin. Just drop it in there, and that'll start to turn it to a black. Or just a rainbow tone. Really, you just want some kind of color to it.